Costa?
Yes.
Mr. Leclerc?
Yes.
Next, I'll make a motion to seal the closed session minutes of January 28, 2026. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. Dr. McGee?
Chairman Bourget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Kepiscus?
Yes.
Mrs. Costa?
Yes.
Mr. Leclerc?
Yes.
The school committee met in closed session this evening to discuss a local 1137 grievance. The school committee voted 5-0 to uphold the superintendent's recommendation for termination of an employee. We'll go into good and welfare. For anyone addressing the school committee during good and welfare, please begin with your name and address.
Moment of silence.
Oh, that's true. Let's stand for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So for anyone addressing the school committee during good and welfare, please begin with your name and address. Your comments shall be no more than 5 minutes of speaking time and should be in good decorum. Please be aware that the committee cannot respond to you during good and welfare, but may direct you to an appropriate member of the administration team or may meet with you directly after the meeting for further discussion. Is there anyone that wants to address the school committee this evening?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Kepiscus?
can we just reflect for the record that Leo Savoy Elementary School was supposed to give a presentation and they are not giving it because school was canceled?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go into recognition announcements, but we don't have any.
I have none
You
this
have-
evening.
You have none.
I have none.
All right, then I'll make a motion to approve the closed session minutes of January 14, 2026. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. Dr. McGee, roll call if there are no changes.
Chairman Bourget,
Yes,
Vice Chair Burke?
Yes.
Kepiscus?
Yes.
Mrs. Costa?
Yes.
Mr. Leclerc?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the January 14, 2026 open meeting minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. Any changes to those minutes?
Nope.
Dr. McGee?
Chairman Bourget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Kepiscus?
Yes.
Mrs. Costa?
Yes.
Mr. Leclerc?
Yes.
Now we'll go into the consent agenda, and I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. Does anyone want to take any item out of the consent agenda to speak about anything?
Nope.
Dr. McGee?
Chairman Bourget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Kepiscus?
Yes.
Mrs. Costa?
Yes.
Mr. Leclerc?
Yes.
We do have a report from our student representatives, but because there were no school, they're not here. Dr. McGee, would you read that report?
I would love to, Mr.
Wonderful.
Chairman. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Yes. So this is dated January 23rd, 2026. It is a, oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't here last time, so I guess I
You
forgot to speak into the mic.
want
Thank you.
Mr. Perrier to
That's-
come
that's
up?
it.
or-
Would, I'm getting a little nervous, Mr. Perrier. Apparently you did too good a job last time. So I do appreciate that, however. Yes, thank you. Bulleted list. First, during January, the school had 3 snow days, which led to some schedule adjustments. Midterm exams were held, and students were expected to attend and complete exams as scheduled. Makeup exams were available for students who were absent. The school announced that the Yonder Pouch program will be starting following approval by the school committee. The program is intended to reduce distractions and increase student focus during the school day. Every grade level participated in an assembly with the principal, where expectations for the Yonder Pouch program were explained, including how the pouches will be used and what students should expect once the program begins. Families were informed about the upcoming Yonder Pouch policy through weekly school updates and parent communication. A parent information night was held in the Woonsocket High School auditorium to share important information and answer questions from families. Quarter 2 grades were released in Skyward, and families were encouraged to review grades and academic progress with students. Attendance continues to be a focus, with reminders being sent home emphasizing the importance of being in school and on time. The Woonsocket High School debate team had a successful season, earning team and individual awards at a Boston Debate League tournament. Our unified basketball signups were announced for the spring season, encouraging student involvement and inclusion. Overall, the school kept communication clear and consistent with students and families during a busy winter period. And that is the list from our Woonsocket High School, Woonsocket School Committee student representatives.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Chairman.
Dr. McGee. I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the student representative report. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Dr. McGee, I'll ask you to give us the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Personnel matters update. We currently have 5 teaching vacancies. We have 15 paraprofessional vacancies, and we have 3 custodian position vacancies as well. Climate and security update, just to kind of reiterate a little bit of what was reported just a moment ago from our Woonsocket High School Committee student representatives. The Yonder pouches, we have been scheduling and we've been holding meetings with our middle school administrators, high school administrators, as well as the union.
I'm sorry,
You okay over there? You sure?
I'm in a submarine. I'm
Hey,
going.
okay. Want to make sure you're
I'm gonna be
okay
on the
there.
floor in a minute.
Making me nervous. Okay, good?
I'm good.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Surprisingly, I've lost my train of thought, but I'm going to get it back
So
here.
it's left the station, or is that
I
it?
think so, yes. So we have had planning sessions. The high school has had a parent information session. I know that Villanova and Hamlet middle schools they're planning or they may have had them. I don't recall in speaking with the principals, but I know that the Yonder process and procedure has been shared and is continuing to be shared with our students at the middle schools and at the high school. I've sent home information to our families regarding the Yonder implementation. Implementation will begin the week following February vacation, so that the week of February 23rd is when the Yonder pouches will be distributed for our students. Just briefly, as everyone knows, we had 3 snow days this week. School will resume tomorrow in the Woonsocket Education Department. I made the decision to cancel the 3 days because, as everybody is well aware, we had a lot of snow, and both our facilities and custodial staff, as well as the city, they had a lot of snow to remove, and I felt as though providing them with an additional 2 days beyond Monday would provide much safer conditions, especially sidewalks, and trying to remove as much snow piles as possible in our lots, as well as throughout the city, would make it much safer for our students. Many of our students walk to and from school. In some instances, parents accompany them as well. So I felt as though it would be much safer for them to try to navigate the streets to and from our schools. And again, school will reopen tomorrow. So looking forward to seeing our students and our staff back tomorrow. I would also like to thank our maintenance and custodial staff for an excellent job that they did clearing our campuses here in the district, our sidewalks and parking lots. We just had an inordinate amount of snow, and I want to thank them for their hard work. Our facilities department, Mr. Notariani, our chief operating officer, as well as our supervisors throughout the district. So thank you to all of those who really did some great work making our campuses safe.
Thank you, Dr. McGee. Any questions, comments for him? Then I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the superintendent's report. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next, we'll go into school subcommittee reports, and we'll begin with the policy subcommittee. I'll turn it over to Ms. Kapiskas and Vice Chair Burke.
Would you like me to do it?
Yeah, would you please do it? Yeah.
Yeah, happy to. Sorry to invade your space. My report's a little bit long for me to say that. It's kind of frightening. But essentially, we hammered out the policy for the yonder pouches and cell phones. So I'm either going to explain it now or later, and I think I'd rather just get it out of the way if that's okay with everyone.
Please.
The policy subcommittee met on January 20th, 2026, with our main purpose to review two policies. The first being the cell phone policy amendment, as well as a retention policy. I'm going to focus on the cell phone policy amendment because that was the focus of the meeting. This is a policy that sets out the yonder pouch procedure for both middle schools and the high school. To summarize, each student will be assigned a yonder pouch at the beginning of each school year, and they will use this pouch daily to contain devices that are not permitted in school. The policy is in effect from bell to bell. Students will not be permitted to retrieve their electronics during passing, lunch, etc. Each student will place the devices in their pouch while entering the school, and that device will be locked at locking stations located at respective entrances. These same doors will act as unlocking stations where the pouch can be unlocked and the electronics retrieved at the end of each day. The pouch with the device in it therein will remain in the student's possession for the entire school day. If a student shows up at school but has no yonder pouch but has electronics, they will present their devices at the main office, where they will be placed in a manila envelope, labeled, and held in the main office until dismissal. Consequences for violations are included in the policy and will be different for each academic level. In the high school, first offense, device will be confiscated, secured in a manila envelope at the main office, where it can be retrieved at the end of the day. Second offense, device will be confiscated and secured in a manila envelope in the main office at the end of each day, where it can be retrieved by a parent or guardian only. And a student will be signed 1 day of ISS, in school suspension. Third offense, device will be confiscated and secured in a manila envelope at the main office, where it can be retrieved at the end of the day by a parent or guardian only, and student will be referred to the FACTS program. At the middle school, the discipline is much the same. First offense, device will be confiscated, secured in a manila envelope in the main office, where it can be retrieved at the end of the day, and student will serve 1 day detention. Second offense, device will be confiscated and secured in a manila envelope at the main office at the end of the day, where it can be, till the end of the day, where it can be retrieved by a parent or guardian only, and the child will be placed in pass for 1 day. Third offense, device will be confiscated and secured in a manila envelope in the main office, where it can be retrieved only by a parent or guardian, and student will be referred to MATS. At the elementary school level, where there are no pouches, there's some dispute. There's not uniformity among the elementary schools in how it's handled. I think that the subcommittee was leaning towards the elementary school procedure that is used at Savoy, which is that only 4th and 5th grade students are permitted to have a phone on them, provided they and their parent or guardian has signed a consent form, which includes rules regarding the administration of these electronic devices, and use is only authorized by a building administrator. If they're permitted to have a phone, it must remain off, not just silenced, and will be signed into the office each day, where it will be retained at the end of each school day. Student may retrieve it and power it up only at dismissal once they exit the building or their assigned bus. They will not be allowed to use it on school property or on the bus. If the phones can be seen during the school day, first offense, phone confiscated and held in the office. Second offense, phone confiscated, held in the office, and can only be retrieved by a parent or guardian. Continued violations, loss of the privilege to bring a phone to school, whether or not the parent or guardian has consented. However, as I said, there's not agreement among the elementary schools as to how that's going to be done. So at this point, all that will be in the policy is that it is banned at the elementary school level. If the administrators make exceptions, that we're recommending that they have signed consents from the children and the parents that include the progressive discipline for each violation. There will be recognized exemptions to this ban on electronic devices, which will include students who require access to their personal electronic devices to access technology necessary to comply with their 504 or IEP plan and to fulfill a specific medical need. For example, students who have diabetes and have a CGM or continuous glucose monitor, or students with hearing loss who control their hearing aid devices via a cell phone. If there's going to be an exception to the rule put into an IEP or a 504, the supervisors of those particular programs must be invited to the meeting and must be part of that discussion. Second, students with extenuating personal circumstances that require access will also be an exception. For example, if a student is a parent themselves or primary caregiver for their own child or younger sibling. These exceptions must be approved by either the superintendent, building administrators, not by educators. Approval of other district administrators will be required depending on the nature of the exemption sought. Students with permitted exemptions will still be assigned a pouch, but will be closed via Velcro and will not lock, as opposed to the regular yonder pouches, which lock by magnet. A discussion of the details followed the review of the draft policy. The prior policy will be incorporated to address cell phones at the elementary school. At this point, with likely that will be further amendments once the elementary schools can agree on their progressive discipline. This policy as drafted does not require staff to use yonder pouches, but it does include language which makes it clear to employees that they are expected to model appropriate behavior for students by not using cell phones in their presence, except for emergencies. The definition of electronic devices and what it includes that's written in the policy is drawn from state statute and is not intended to be expansive. Language was discussed and council directed to add language to address what happens if a student shows up at school with no pouch but has a phone. If a student advises staff at the entrance that they've elected not to bring the phone at school but is discovered to have a phone, the consequences set forth in the policy will be imposed. If a parent wants to exempt their child from having to carry an empty pouch because they have no phones, both parent and child will sign an attestation that the school will not bring such a device to school. Again, if they show up with such a device, consequences as set forth in and under the policy will be imposed, and a meeting with the attending parent will occur as well. Each pouch will be assigned a number, and a numbered pouch distributed to the student will be noted on a spreadsheet. The assigned pouch will be returned at the conclusion of each school year. There will be consequences for lost or unreturned or damaged pouches. There will be a $20 fee for the replacement of lost, damaged, or unreturned pouches. If that fee is not paid, any device brought to school by the violating student will be secured in a manila envelope until dismissal, when it can be retrieved in accordance with the policy. Continued ongoing failure to pay the replacement cost will result in the loss of participation in non-curricular activity privileges, including social activities such as prom, etc. With regard to the medical exceptions to this policy as set forth, no such exception shall be permitted unless agreed to, as I said, by the superintendent, special ed director, assistant special ed director, or district school nurse, or whoever might be the director of 504 at the time. An additional exception, which would have allowed MLL students to use their devices for translation purposes, was removed with the advice and consent of the MLL director, who felt the use would be duplicative, as translation services are available on each student's Chromebook and each educator's iPad. Any communication between and among the school, parent or guardian, and child during school should be done via other approved emergency communication systems, such as email, text, robocall, school messenger, class dojo, etc. At the conclusion of our discussion, the policy subcommittee voted to put this matter before the entire school committee for its full review, as it would be required prior to a rollout of the Yonder pouches scheduled for after the February break. I'm sorry that that was so long, but I wanted to make sure everyone knew what was in the policy before we vote on it later. We then moved on to the retention policy. This policy will integrate the state's mandates for an early warning system of impending failure to be promoted, resulting at least in part from chronic absenteeism. The policy had been discussed at our last policy meeting, but as a result of the discussion, Director DeRizo and Director Quadros had some significant amendments that were being discussed. I freely admit that in the education speak of that discussion, I was quite lost, and I was going to refer to Ms. DeRizo and Dr. Holt to provide additional details, which the committee would be required to understand if the matter comes before it for approval. However, we did not put that matter before us on our agenda for approval because, unfortunately, I had to leave as chair. As a result, we no longer had a quorum to vote on the retention policy, and therefore the retention policy was tabled to our next meeting for further discussion. We seconded and approved this tabling, and that's where it sits. A new policy will be added with the passage of the cell phone policy by the subcommittee as agreed at our last meeting. That policy will be the homeless student population policy. The next meeting was tentatively scheduled for 2/10, but council and the superintendent were both going to be unavailable and was moved to a tentative date of 2/24. Not sure if that stuck. It did not. And we adjourned at 5:40 so I could attend a planning meeting at the City Hall. That didn't occur anyway. That's my report.
Thank you, Mrs.
Said, Your
Kapiskas.
Honor.
Let me ask you something. In looking at the policy that we're going to discuss later, most of pretty much everything you said is in there. There were, like you mentioned, $20 fine, that's not in the policy. That's not in there. Am I correct?
That's because at the time that the policy was prepared and put before the subcommittee, the thought was to make those protocols.
Yes.
We've decided that instead of making a protocols, it should be included in the policy. I don't know whether or not, I don't know if it wasn't included and what Carolyn sent you it was supposed to be, but if it's not, it will certainly be set forth in protocols,
Okay, because
which don't have to come before the school committee for approval.
No, I'm just saying, because as you were speaking, I was checking the policy and I had read the policy. And when you mentioned the $20, I know that's not there. You talk about proms, et cetera. That's not there. Okay. But just not.
I think Dr. McGee would like to add something.
Just to add to that,
Yeah.
so one of the things that we discussed was that we would look at the cost per pouch as to what that would if
What they
if
have to
it's-
pay.
what
If they
what
lose
they
it.
would have to pay if it's
Okay.
lost or damaged, because the cost of those changes from year to year. So
So we left the money out.
so we left that
Okay.
out, but it would include that.
Yeah, I did see
I mean, kind of a strange comparison is like market price, right?
Right.
Whatever the price, whatever the
Replacement
cost is, would be the replacement
Okay.
cost.
All right. Any other questions for Mrs. Kapiskas?
And to piggyback off that, I just want to also add that we did have a very brief discussion about my concern about that fiscal penalty in light of the commissioner's view on field trips and cost of field trips. It's going to be in the protocols, but if we are depriving students of social extracurricular activities, those are permitted because it's not an educational purpose.
Okay. I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the policy subcommittee report. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next, we'll go to the school building committee report. Mr. Notoriani, would you give us a summary of what happened at that committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the school building committee met on Friday, January 23rd at 9:30 a.m. at second floor conference room at City Hall. The agenda covered consideration of the prior meeting's minutes. We then received a update from Downs Construction, which is the owner's project manager. The update included the schedule, which we are on time for in terms of the school construction at the Nasuti Elementary School. We discussed a brief budget update. At this point in time, we are on budget, and I believe bids are still coming in. We discussed the offsite update and funding regarding our relationship with DOT and how the new configuration will look at Smithfield Road and our ongoing conversations with the town of North Smithfield. And then we talked about the deed restriction and water easement the deed restriction is at Barry Field in terms of making sure we have playing fields there. And then we talked about the water easement, and further in the discussion, I'll just cover it now. For the water easement, the school building committee voted to request that the school committee, which will be at the next school committee meeting, requested the school committee submit a formal request to the Woonsocket City Council to see if the city solicitor could work on the water easement for us. We then received a presentation from the design build team, which is DOC, Daniel O'Connell and Sons, and Jonathan Levy Associates, regarding a construction update. And they had some video and stuff, which I think you were all presented with at your prior meeting. We then had an update. We skipped over the update for the subcommittee for December 18th and January 12th. And then we had the formal vote on the water easement. And that concluded all the topics discussed at the last building committee meeting.
Any comments, questions? Then I'll make a motion to receive and place on file a school building committee report. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Leclerc and Mrs. Costa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Today, we had a finance subcommittee report. And Mr. Perrier, do you want to address that here? Might as well address what we did in summary, because I know you're going to cover some of that in your financial report.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. So today, Wednesday, January 28th at 3:30,
the Finance Subcommittee held a meeting here at Hamlet. The agenda had several items on it. The first item was a discussion approval of transfer of medical reserve funds to the general fund. In front of this committee, I put a transfer of our $1.97 million in our medical pooling account to be transferred into the general fund. I'm going to be putting in front of the school committee at the next meeting for their final approval. Basically, this is just to cover overages that we're having in this year's budget. Anything that we do not spend will be returned to the medical pool at the end of the year. Right now, it's a little early to tell how much we're going to need of this, but just to be on the safe side, we want to transfer all this in to see, so we have some flexibility as we close out this year. You may have noticed that our purchases were pretty small this quarter, or for this school committee meeting, to the tune of about $60,000. That's what I'm anticipating as we get through the end of the fiscal year here. We're in a position where we're just going to want to kind of hang on to the road we're on, really not try to add anything large in terms of extra expenses as we close out this year, and try to shrink this usage of the fund balance as much as we can. So this will be in front of the entire school committee for vote. I meant to put it on, but unfortunately I didn't get that information over to Kim. We then moved on to the fiscal review. I'll be touching base on that as I get down to my fiscal review. It was just a discussion that we'll have when I do my fiscal review with the entire committee. And then the final item that we discussed was the state aid for fiscal year 2027. Fiscal year 2027 state aid has been released from the governor's office, and the Woonsocket Education Department is slated to lose $827,000 for fiscal year 27. This is the first year in my 12 years of working here that state aid will be decreasing year over year. This is a serious thing as we go into fiscal year 27. We have contracts that we need to take care of. We have increases in costs that are kind of leading to our overages this year, as far as some charter school tuitions and some other areas. Next year is going to be a very difficult year. Let me get out in front of that right now. I plan on having to the Finance Subcommittee meeting a first pass of a budget at our March meeting, just so we can kind of start to see what the damage is going to look like as we roll into next fiscal year. Right now, by my estimate, I'm looking at about 40 FTEs that we're going to need to cut out to balance the budget for fiscal year 27. Now, that's preliminary. It's based on the information that I have right now, and I'm going to be working on that budget over the next couple of months to try to figure out how we're going to balance the budget. So I don't really have anything more to add on that right now, except things are looking pretty dire right now at the time. I'm hopeful that when the legislative session fires up in June, there'll be some adjustments to this, and that we'll be able to add some things back. I know they're looking at the student success factor. Adding that back in, that would add $2 million to our budget, which would be very helpful. I know they're looking at some changes to transportation potentially, which would really benefit the district as we spend quite a bit on statewide transportation. But as of right now, and as of the time frame that is in front of me, we're going to have to submit a budget that is going to just hold that stuff out for later, because I need to have my budget to the school, city council by May 1st. We're not going to find out about these other items till afterwards. And if there are items to add back in, we'll be doing that over the summer in July. That was the, we also then discussed that we put together our meeting dates for the rest of the year. The Finance Subcommittee will be meeting during the same day as the last school committee meeting of every month from here until the end of June at 3:30. So if anyone wants to come by and listen to the great news that I have to spread to everybody, feel free to stop by. And that was the Finance Subcommittee meeting.
Any questions, thoughts?
Yeah, Mr.
Jim,
Chairman, I'm just, once again, I'm appalled that we go from $500,000 to 1.4 to Rise Prep this year. But my question is, has that change officially been done? I mean, we sent letters opposing it. I have not seen an agenda of an upcoming meeting with them.
It actually has to do with the additional clawback that,
That was
we were-
changed by,
it's always been there. There's always been an additional clawback as part of the, the Rhode Island, the general law. We just didn't qualify for it for fiscal year 26 that we're in. And unfortunately, we don't get that information until after the budget is done. So we submitted a budget in May, but much like we didn't hear about the changes in the state aid until June, we didn't know that we lost our clawback until after you had already approved the budget in May. So that's why it kind of blindsided us a little bit, because we were already set with our budget, and now we've had to take action to kind of balance things out. So it has nothing to do with them. They are still, I believe, are classified as a mayoral academy, but we did not qualify for that additional clawback due to the Uniform Chart of Accounts information that goes into the Rhode Island Department of Ed. So it had nothing to do with them changing or anything.
okay, but when they do change,
When they do change, we will definitely not qualify for that additional clawback, and it will be more like what we're spending right now.
will we have additional?
I imagine
But then-
it does float a little bit from year to year, but I wouldn't anticipate another $1 million increase. There may be a slight change to the tuition rate, and I think for sure we'll be adding 20 to 25 students at that rate. So that's $2,000 right now. If we got another 20, I mean, there you go. That's going to be a little bit more expense for next year. But I would not anticipate $1 million jump like we had this year. That one really kind of caught us flat-footed, and now we're trying to make ends meet so that we can close out this fiscal year.
And my other question is, when do we start going to city council to ask for the 4%?
Tomorrow,
Yes.
if you'd like. Right now, just so everyone's clear, when I build my first run of my budget, it's going to be based on a $0 increase. And much like if there's any adjustments to the state aid in June, if there are adjustments to the revenue for local, we will take that into consideration in July as well. But due to us investing a lot of money into this new school project over there, our reserves have kind of been trimmed down, and we don't have the flexibility we've had in past years where we can kind of roll the dice on some of this stuff and wait till everything's finalized because we have things to fall back on. We still have fund balance to fall back on, but it really, at this point, it really needs to be reserved, because right now we're in the area of about a $5 million fund balance, which sounds like quite a bit, but for north of $100 million operation, 5% is not much of a fund balance at all. So we really need to concentrate hard on the budget going into next year, and then hopefully there'll be some changes with state aid, local aid, and we'll be able to add some things back as we get into July. But we just can't rely on that fund balance like we have in past years.
There's no way we can that we can predict what the state aid is going to be, and where some of those expenses are going to go. But at the end of the day, we have to submit a balanced budget. We cannot show and based on hope and, well, we should get that money back. If we do, that's wonderful, but we cannot set up a budget and finalize a budget when we send it to the city council as status quo. So we're going to have to look at, if whatever the numbers are come March and April, we're going to have to make estimates, and it's going to hurt. This is like Mr. Perrier said, it's the first time we see a decrease in state budget by about 800,000.
12 years.
So we haven't seen that unless they change their mind or something happens at the State House. We're not alone. Some of the other urban centers are also losing money. It looks like that's where the hit is in the urbans. So we're one of them. So you tack that on. It's almost a perfect storm. We have contracts that we have to deal with. We've lost some revenue, and we've got expenditures that are there. So you put it all together, that's why we need to go to the balance sheet for $1,970,000 to pull it out of our reserves and put it into our general fund. But this is it's a one-time shot. And hopefully the numbers get better so we can return that fund balance or that reserve back to the balance sheet.
Yeah, absolutely. We're only halfway through the fiscal year, really, at this point. A little better than that. So, I mean, I think there's a real strong possibility that the numbers improve as we go through the end of the year. But I just want to make sure that the committee is aware of what we could potentially be facing. And I like to think I don't sound the alarm very often, since I've been sitting in the seat. But this has got my attention, how things are developing right now, and it's going to be something that we're going to need to keep an eye on as we close out this year and roll into next fiscal year.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Kepiscus.
I just want to add one thing. In addition to lobbying the city council, which frankly, I don't think is going to give us any more money. They
Agreed.
haven't in the years I've sat here, almost 8 years. I think we really need to lobby very hard on our state legislators because they're the ones that can affect the statewide budget. And they're the ones that can affect change that will benefit us. And I don't mean benefit us, I just mean keep us from falling into a deficit situation. So I think if you want to lobby the city council, that's fine. You need to lobby both. The Rhode Island Foundation has proposed a change to the statewide funding,
Correct.
which would dictate the state is going to give X, but this is the part that's been missing all these years. The municipality is going to give Y. And if you're not going to give Y, there's going to be a penalty associated with the Y you're supposed to be giving. That's the piece that's always been missing. But quite frankly, if they passed that this year, we would likely bankrupt the city of Woonsocket
Correct.
because we are teetering on the brink as it is. So that scares me in and of itself. But I just want to make sure that we don't lose our focus. I don't think you're going to get it from the city. I think your best hope is to get it from the state. And that's where we need to lobby hard to make sure that they're going to support us. Because with all due respect, some of them are the ones that blew the vote on the loss of the clawback this year. They weren't there for the vote. And as a result, the removal of our option for the clawback disappeared. And that's why we went up by $1 million. And everybody needs to keep that in mind too when you have your discussions with them. That's it. Thank
I
you.
agree. I agree with that. Do we need to set up what does the committee want to do? Do you want to have a meeting with them? Do you want to send them a missive, an email? Because to me, you send them a mail. I'd rather have a face-to-face and let them look into our eyes and hear what we've got to say and go through the financial update where we are so that they can understand exactly what we're looking at.
Absolutely. I prefer face-to-face if I may speak.
How do you feel?
I think so too. I think we should also see if some council members want to get involved also.
Yeah. So maybe we should look to communicate with the five of them so that we set up a special meeting so we can meet. Don't you
That's a good idea.
have a good, this way we can
We can
do
do
that. And we'll have numbers to show them. These are preliminary, but they got to know before we give the city council a budget. So this way, if they're going to be able to do something, they'll do it now. Because times are wasting. This is going to be, in the next couple of months, are going to be the hot and heavy months where there's a lot of discussions, a lot of bills are going to be presented.
Fine, it doesn't, we know.
Very.
So I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the financial subcommittee report. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Leclerc. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ms. Morel, we're going to give Mr. Perrier a break for a minute. I'm going to ask you to give us your special education update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In front of you is the special education report. I just wanted to make a couple announcements before I go into the report. We did have a special education advisory meeting that was scheduled for this week, but with the snow days, I did cancel the meeting, and it will be rescheduled. I do have a couple of factors that I have to look into. Schedules for the staff person that is running the meeting for us, as well as other members of the meeting, to make sure it doesn't conflict with any other meetings that we have scheduled. Also, I wanted to remind parents that our annual IEPs are looking to be done by May 1st. So if you have to reschedule your IEP meetings, please make sure that you reach out to your school and you do that. as soon as possible, but we're trying to get them all done by May 1st. And that helps us with scheduling for the next year. With that stated, also the TAs, Mrs. Kitchen and I have been working very diligently the last couple of weeks, interviewing and hiring TAs to fill the open positions that we have. As quickly as we're hiring TAs, we have TAs that are either getting hurt, not at school, but at home. A couple have gotten into a car accident, and some have retired. So we've been filling positions as they're leaving. So we're trying to do that as quickly as possible. And we've been interviewing almost weekly. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there. My special education numbers is a snapshot as of January 21st. Currently, we are serving 1,394 students with special education services in our schools from pre-K to grade 12. This represents 27.7%. So it has gone up slightly. Our numbers have gone down a little bit, but the overall population is now down to 5,030 students. So that has gone down. We're losing the gen ed students, but we're keeping most of our special education students. Currently, we have 24 students in our transpro classroom, and we have about 123 students in our out-of-district placements, with 116 of them with IEPs. Do you have any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chair Burke?
Ms. Morel brought to our attention the total number of students in the district now, 5,030. That is a major drop, right, over these last several years, and that affects our financial income from the state, especially too. It's striking. That's our number now.
Yeah, it was 5,200 last year, if I recall.
Yeah.
So, and a few years ago, it was over 6.
So,
Right. Pre-pandemic, we were over 6.
yeah.
But I'm sorry, I'm
No,
stepping your toes.
I'm looking, yeah.
But I also think that we need to recognize that you think about that, you're saying less students, less expense. Well, unless 30 of the students that left the district all come from the same classroom,
Right.
we're not laying off the teacher, we're not laying off the TA in that room. We still have those expenses.
Right.
We still have the overhead of heat, electricity, all that other stuff,
Right.
because those 30 students are dispersed across the district. So income comes down, cost doesn't,
Mhm.
as students leave the district.
No.
And I've never really heard a satisfactory explanation from anybody, including RIDE, as to where these students are going. Are they just disappearing? Yeah, our homeschooling numbers have gone up, but I don't think they've gone up significantly enough to explain the amount of students that are no longer in our population. It's very confusing.
Mhm.
Right.
It's striking, yeah.
Do we know where they went? I'm asking our directors. Mr. Notoriani, you're looking at me. I'm not going to cut you off either. Do you know where our students have gone?
I would assume a big portion went to Rise, correct?
No,
I don't think so.
no, I don't know. I'm looking at the state report, the snapshot report as of today. In 23-24, as of today, we had 5,579 students. In 24-25, as of today, we had 5,504 students. And as of today, I'm not sure what Mrs. Morel quoted, but the snapshot as of today, specifically today, says 5,222 students. And when I started in the district 10 years ago, we were around approximately 6,000.
Just
So
like that, we picked up 200 students, Miss Morel?
In 3 days.
3 days. Wow. Okay, but it's still.
So our next 3 days, we'll get 200 more.
We might.
I'll call you tomorrow, Mr. Notoriani. Maybe we'll go up 100.
please, I can be honest with you, the numbers Ms. Morel gets are from my department, so I get some explaining to do tomorrow about that report, because this is a problem for me.
I think it's students that transferred into the district because we have snow days with no virtual learning.
That's it, maybe.
That would be cause for some people to transfer in.
We
Right.
have many students that leave and come back.
Yeah.
It's amazing
I'm just
how
being facetious. I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a very transient population. We always have, and we all recognize that. That number is going to bounce up and down like an
Always.
EKG.
It is. Right, exactly. Let's hope it doesn't go flatline.
no
kidding.
Hope not.
Anyone else? I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the special education update. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Perrier, back to you for our financial update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In front of the school committee this evening is the December 2025 fiscal update. Let's go to the bottom line first. We are currently projecting a $255,000 surplus right now. The transfer in, the $1.970 million transfer in for the medical pooling account that I spoke about earlier, that is captured in this. Just so everybody is on the same page, we've already captured that transfer. I know you haven't approved it yet, but I wanted you to have the most up-to-date information on kind of how I'm seeing things right now. So that $1.97 million is in there. If you'd like, you can actually look. It's actually under other revenue. It's that full amount right there, and that's adding to our projected revenue. So as for other revenues, the 4% increase that we asked for from the city of Woonsocket for FY26 was only funded at $150,000. That led to the decrease in local budgeted revenues of $519,000. 3% increase to the student success factor, which is a component of the state funding formula, was not approved by the General Assembly in June. And this led to the decrease in budgeted state revenues that you see of $1.469 million. Currently, Medicaid is on track to help us out a little bit. We are projecting a $1.185 million surplus on Medicaid revenue. So that's actually helping us out quite a bit right now. Hopefully, we'll continue to do our billings, and hopefully we'll see this climb a little bit as we get to the close of the year. Overall, right now, the general fund is projecting a revenue overage of $1.046 million. On the expense side, all regular salaries are $1.975 million under budget at this time. When netted with the employee turnover allowance of $1.35 million, this will put overall salary $625,000 under budget. Medical expenses are currently $2.75 million under budget right now, which is really, again, helping us out tremendously. We're only halfway through the year. It's still too early to celebrate this, but it would go a long way towards helping us out and closing the budget gap that we're looking at. We're going to continue to monitor this as we go forward on a monthly basis. And as a reminder to the school committee, we have used that 1.97 at this point, but we still have another $1 million in OPEB funding that we can draw on before we get in a strictly fund balance after that. Overages and purchase services are due to us being unable to fill some budgeted salary positions. Finance office has adjusted salary encumbrances down to offset this. Currently, PCAs have been difficult to fill this year, and this is leading to overages of a little over $1.4 million on that line. Transportation is also currently over budget by $368,000. This is due to higher than expected transportation costs for out-of-district students. I did touch on this earlier. There was conversation about the state bus routes being adjusted, and I'm hopeful that that will be revisited again on this upcoming legislative session. That would certainly save the district some money in the long run. District is currently $971,000 over budget at the time for tuitions to charter schools. We've talked about that. That's due to the increase in the RISE prep. We went from $500,000 to $1.4 million in 1 year. We've kept all of our expenses for technology and for equipment in the general fund. I know we've been moving them out historically, but due to us transferring that money in for this time, we've kept that expense in the general fund. If need be, as we get to the close of the year, we can move those expenses off to our technology fund and our capital fund. But right now, we're just going to keep them right there and monitor things as we go forward. As I said earlier, we are projecting a $256,000 surplus at this time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions the committee has.
Just to give it a 30,000 foot look, if we were not pulling the $1,970,000 out of the balance sheet reserves to put into the general fund revenues, we would be showing tonight about $1.7 million deficit for this year.
Correct.
For the shortages that in revenues that we did not get, plus the expenditures that were higher than budget, especially notably the RISE prep, $971,000, and other areas that are over budget.
Mm-hmm.
So even though we're showing a $256,000 surplus, it's really couched couching the real story that our operating budget is really facing. So that's why in the next couple of months, we're going to have to look at this very carefully. And if we don't get any good news from now till then, till when we have to submit the budget, then we're going to have a very bleak budget for 27. That's why we got to get, as Ms. Kepiscus suggested, that we get together with our state reps and state senators.
I'd just like to add, I think it's going to be bleak for the first run. I don't think we're going to get answers to any of these questions before May 1st, when our budget needs to be due to city council. So I think it is going to be bleak. And I'm hopeful that when we get into July, we get some good news, we can add some things back. But there's going to be cuts for this year, for the budget coming up in fiscal year 27. There's no doubt about it.
Mr. Chairman, just,
Chip Burke.
and as we're talking about some of the financial difficulties, we haven't addressed at all what effect the federal government may have on some of our budgets and some of our needs.
The federal grants have been very interesting this year. They were delayed, if you do recall. So we're kind of catching up on those a little bit as well. We might have some good news. We might have some expense that maybe can be moved out and offset with some of these federal grants. We're going to work on that over the upcoming month and catch up our reporting, because again, due to that being delayed at the start of the year, we kind of got off on a wrong foot with our federal grants. But who knows what's going to happen next year with that. Your guess is as good as mine.
Anyone else?
Just
Ms. Kepiscus.
one follow-up question. I don't want to sound like I'm harping on them, but RISE. They're opening up 2 more grades, 11th and 12th grade. 11th grade this year, this 26, 27, and 27, 28, they'll be opening up grade 12. And my understanding is they're already approved for an elementary school in 2020, an additional elementary school in 2028. That would further negatively impact us by drawing more funds away, correct?
Yeah, every student they bring in from us is we're losing that student to the funding formula, and then we have a cost that we need to pay to RISE.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Then I'll make a motion to receive and place on file a financial update. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Leclerc, Mrs. Costa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have no unfinished business. We have a couple of items in new business. First, I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the amendments to the electronic device policy. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. Ms. Kepiscus, you did a great job in explaining the policy. Do you want to add anything, or are there any questions with regards to this policy?
I prefer not to add anything at this point.
I was being polite.
I agree.
I appreciate that.
We love you, Lynn, but I agree.
Anyone else? Dr. McGee?
I think we're good.
Chairman Bourget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Kepiscus.
Yes.
Mrs. Costa,
Yes.
Mr. Leclerc.
Yes.
Next, we have a discussion in honor of Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA's 50th anniversary. Mrs. Kepiscus, would you like to take that one?
Yes, I would.
Please.
I apologize. You'll have to listen to me again, but I think that I wanted to speak about this because it's a very auspicious occasion. I've asked to include this item on tonight's agenda to discuss an educational issue which is near and dear to my heart: special education and IDEA. As the mother of a now adult son with multiple disabilities, both were essential in helping to form the young man my son has become through his career as a student at the Woonsocket Education Department. As chair of the Woonsocket Special Education Local Advisory Committee for the last 20 years and member of the Rhode Island Special Education Advisory Council for the last 15, I feel compelled to address this issue. My intent is not to bore you, but to share information and insight on the momentous 50th anniversary of the federal laws which established modern special education. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, and unlike the federal Secretary of Education, I know what those letters mean, is a federal law dating to 1975, which was intended to ensure that students with disabilities are provided with a free, appropriate public education, FAPE, that you often hear about, that is tailored to their individual needs. Overall, the goal of IDEA is to provide children with disabilities the same opportunity for education as those students who do not have a disability. It's multi-generational in that it is designed to address the education of all children with disabilities through age 22, including infants and toddlers with disabilities from birth to age 3. The law has remained generally unchanged since original enactment 50 years ago this past year. It is from this act that certain language associated with special education we've all become familiar with arises: IEPs, FAPE, least restrictive environment, to a lesser degree, parent and teacher participation, procedural safeguards, confidentiality of information, discipline, and transitional services. That's the TransPro program you hear about. Since the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954, education has become a very important component of the civil rights movement because, as we all know and believe, knowledge is power. Rising out of that civil rights movement came interest in such things as cognitive impairment studies, increased research on at-risk youth, early intervention programs such as early intervention and Head Start. Education soon became at the forefront of many political agendas. As late as the 1970s, only 1 out of 5 children with disabilities was served or accommodated in public schools in this country. 1 out of 5. Many states had laws that specifically excluded children with certain types of disabilities from attending public school, providing instead that those children were warehoused in facilities where they received residential care, but little to no effective instruction. An example with which we are all familiar with here in Rhode Island is the former Ladd School. As I've said forever, yes, special education is expensive. Pay for them now or pay for them later. You don't pay for them now through special education where you're producing adults who can support themselves, are knowledgeable in their own rights and able to advocate for themselves. You're going to be paying for them forever. Under the first iteration of the IDEA, known as the Education for All Handicapped Children's Act in 1975, public schools began to be required to evaluate children with disabilities and provide an educational plan with parent input, which made the educational experience of those children as comparable as possible to that of their non-disabled peers by placing students in the least restrictive educational environment, which allows for the maximum possible opportunity to interact with their typical peers, and allowing placement in separate schools only when the nature and severity of the student's disability is such that they cannot achieve FAPE in a regular classroom. Finally, the law contains the due process clause that guarantees an impartial hearing to resolve conflicts between parents of disabled children in school systems, but which also allows for dispute resolution outside of a courtroom. In 1990, the IDEA replaced the EHA in order to put more focus on the individual, the I in IDEA, rather than solely on their disability. It had many improvements on the EHA, such as promoting research and technological development, details on transition programs for student post-high school, and programs that educate children in neighborhood schools as opposed to separate educational facilities. I could go on and on about IDEA and its importance to the roughly 27% of the students here in Woonsocket who are identified pursuant to the law's terms and who receive special education services as a result of being so identified. Over the last 50 years since its enactment, IDEA has been revised to align the requirements with new federal laws, including but not limited to No Child Left Behind, which provided financial incentives to states to improve their educational services to all students, including those receiving special education services, as well as certain penalties for states who fail to improve student services. Despite the existence of these federal laws, some states remain reluctant to educate students who are eligible for services under IDEA. However, like it or not, IDEA is still a law of the land and must be complied with. Section 504 is a related section of the law, which is another federal law that assures certain protections to individual students with disabilities by providing that no otherwise qualified individual with a disability should be denied participation in any program receiving federal financial assistance solely based on their disability. This would include school districts. Under Section 504, FAPE consisted with the provision of regular or special education and related aids and services designed to meet the student's individual educational needs as adequately as the needs of non-disabled students are met. Eligibility and accommodations under Section 504 are different than those under IDEA, but students can be eligible for both under the federal law. Important to note, however, is that eligibility for 504 accommodations may not mean eligible for IEPs, but students with IEPs may be eligible for a 504 plan as well. My personal statement, which we all know I was all leading up to. As we celebrate 50 years of IDEA, both IDEA and Section 504 are under attack by the current federal administration and certain states which support that federal administration politically. Despite the fact that the number of children served by IDEA has grown steadily and continues to grow. As previously stated, 15% of the nation's public school students are identified under IDEA, a law established 50 years ago. That was an increase of 7% from the 8% that were identified in 1975. This increase is not the result of anything other than better identification processes established and funded by, you guessed it, IDEA. Yet federal funding for IDEA remains well below the target outlined in the law itself. IDEA sets up a graduated federal spending schedule for the excess costs associated with providing services to students under IDEA. By now, the federal funding was supposed to be borne by the federal government. 40% of it. That simply has not happened. The shortage of special education staff, including teachers and paraprofessionals, remain a top concern in many districts, including our own, where many staff prefer to either turn to general education classrooms or to leave public school classrooms altogether. There is no question that issues around paperwork, additional legal responsibilities, caseloads, and limited resources have certainly contributed to the special education staffing exodus. The threats to the current federal administration to dissolve the United States Department of Education by offloading many of its offices to other federal agencies who are not equipped or appropriately staffed to handle the influx of work will be the result. These plans are proposed as part of an effort, allegedly, to return control over educational issues to the state. What they really are is an effort by the federal administrations to attack diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI programs which they believe should not provide what they view as advantages being provided to students with special educational needs, an idea that is simply preposterous. Among the proposal are plans to move the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitation over the Departments of Labor and/or the Office of Health and Human Services, and the Office of Civil Rights, which is charged with enforcing IDEA and 504, to the Department of Justice. None of these agencies are currently prepared or appropriately staffed to handle the influx of work that will result. I also note that these proposals will effectively gut both federal laws around students with disabilities, both of which were passed by Congress, without any congressional approval or oversight. Devastating fiscal cuts are already negatively impacting special education training programs, reduced special education oversight staff, and closed 7 of the 12 regional civil rights offices who are charged with enforcing IDEA and Section 504, including our local OCR office in Boston. Parent information and training centers like our own Ripon have been threatened under these proposals. The proposed successors lack knowledge with regard to the provisions of the federal special education laws, and for parents like me, this raises obvious concerns that evaluations taken under IDEA will once again become a weapon used in an effort to institutionalize rather than educate students with disabilities. While recent news out of Washington, D.C. leaves us hopeful, as it does the administration's very recent abandonment of an unfavorable decision, of an unfavorable decision on the constitutionality of its Dear Colleague letter demanding abandonment of certain public education programs, we cannot lie idle and assume the war is over. It is not, although that particular battle is hopefully behind us. The issues going forward will likely revolve around funding of programs under IDEA and 504. Therefore, we must remain wary. I ask that all of us involved in education, whether student, parent, paraprofessional, educator, administrator, director, superintendent, or school committee member, remain vigilant and prepared to lobby and lobby hard to preserve the rights of those among us who are our most vulnerable students. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Mrs.
Very good.
Kapiskas. Any discussion, questions for her? Thank you very much.
Said.
We have no other items on our agenda, so I'll make a motion to adjourn at 8:04 PM. Do we have a second?
Second.
I was talking to her, it's my fault.
Thank you, Mrs. Costa. She seconded the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 We are adjourned.